Hey Flingers, just making a quick, almost kind of a vlog style video. Just played my second round ever of this Spark Golf thing, which I'd never heard about until about a month ago. And somebody on the Fling Golf Facebook page had mentioned it and asked if anybody else had played in it. So people started kind of talking about it, and I decided to try it because it seemed like a ton of fun. And so I tried out a round. The handicap system was a little bit weird because the first time you play at each course, you kind of have to guess your own handicap. And so I kind of went off of my GHIN handicap, you know, my official like regular golf handicap, which at the time I was a 9.4. I've since had, you know, a couple medium rounds, so I'm at 9.6 now, but I float basically about a 9.5. And so I was like, okay, well, for 9 holes, I'll cut that in half. That's like, you know, 4 or 5, 4.5-ish, and 4.8 or whatever. I was like, I'll round it up. Up as in like, you know, the lower handicap, I guess. To try to be a little bit more fair, especially because that course hadn't been liberated yet, so nobody had played Fling Golf there as far as I'm aware. So I didn't want them to kind of get upset with Fling Golf being there. So I was like, I'm going to, you know, give myself a harder handicap just to purposely kind of lower my score a little bit. And I ended up having kind of a rough round. I ended up being, I think it was 10 over raw because I shot 6 over net adjusted. But it's a hard course because we have to play from the gold tees, which I think are just like the regular men's tees. Might even be one back from the men's tees. I don't know their color scheme. I'm used to the golds being like the senior tees in between the women's reds and the men's whites. And then I'm used to usually like there's either a black or a blue in there or both somewhere behind that. Although I guess at Glenrose the blacks are one up, so really I wish golf would standardize that across the board. But anyway, so we have to play off the golds, but the golds there for the front 9, because it's always on the front 9, is 31-17, and there's a lot of hard holes there. There's a 200-yard par 3 over a ravine, and it's 200 yards carry. And if you play the fairway, the shortest carry is probably about 150 to get it into like the fairway, because it kind of extends. If you're looking directly at the green over the ravine, it extends kind of front to the right. So it's basically like a 90-degree dogleg left if you actually kind of take the path not on the ravine. But I can't make it there in one shot. You know, I can't carry 200 yards. So I can't carry the ravine, so I have to go out to the right and basically treat it as a par 4, you know, a short par 4 with a layup. So I can never basically score a par on that one unless I get an amazing approach shot and one putt. But I can't essentially make the green in regulation. And then there's a couple of long par 4s that I just cannot reach the green in 2. I can get, you know, within 20 yards or so. The par 5s, I can't reach any of the par 5s in 2. Like not even a chance. So it's really, really hard for me to make any birdies. The par 4s are pretty much impossible for me to birdie. I think there's only like 2 par 4s that I can actually reach in 2. There's only 2 par 3s on the course. One of them is 130 yards, which is fine. So that one I could potentially birdie. And then the par 5s, if I get a good approach shot, I can birdie. And I did actually birdie the first par 5 today. I had an amazing approach shot to probably about 15 to 18 feet, I would say, and just drained the putt. I was deadly on the putting. Anything from inside of 5 feet was automatic, which should be about right. But anything, I mean, I was from, you know, 15 to 18 feet, I would say. I was either making them. I made 2 long putts like that. I made that birdie putt, and then I made another putt for par on the other par 5. From that one was probably 20 feet at least. But I was routinely making those like 15 to 20 footers, and those ones, if I missed them, they were near misses, like tap-in, easy tap-in misses, which Spark Golf, they play gimmies if you're inside of a standard putter length. So, I don't use my putter length of 51 inches. I try to keep it about 34, so about 3 feet. But the... lost my train of thought here. And then anything outside of that range of outside of 20 feet, I was leaving myself at most about 3.5 feet. So this new putting style, my distance control is a lot better. And most of those misses, honestly, were, I'm not familiar with the greens. And I just kind of misread them. I remember one specifically, I looked at it from both directions, and I would have swore it went right to left. But then when I putted it, it went fairly significantly, about probably 3 feet to the right. My distance control is perfect, but I ended up with about a 3-footer left because it just broke way more than I saw. And I even looked at it from both ends, from behind my ball and from behind the hole. I looked at it from the low side of the putt, and that was just a terrible read. But the greens were rolling pure, though, so I can't complain about that. Just there was a couple very difficult reads. But yeah, I had a ton of fun with it. And even from those difficult gold tees, where birdies are almost impossible to come by, the par 3 over the ridge, I had to take a drop. Some people might not agree with the way I played it, but I talked to the other 3 guys I was playing with, and they were all fine with it. So basically, my first shot shanked right, and it went into the trees. Because again, like the entire hole goes from the green and then front right, and there's a tree on the other side. So it's a really actually tough if you're trying to lay it up into that fairway, because if you go too far left for your carry, you end up in the ravine still. But if you go too far right and your carry's too far, you end up in the woods. And so mine, I had a line, but my miss with this new 51 inch is going to be to the right. And I had that miss, which I only had, I think, 2 times today where I had that right miss. Everything else was exactly where I wanted it. I was nailing drives and approaches dead on where I wanted them to go. And so I went into the woods, and I asked them, I was like, all right, is there a drop point up there anywhere? And they said, yeah, there's a drop zone up around there, fairway. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to throw another one just to kind of get it out of my mind. I want to see a shot get across that ravine and not into the woods. So I threw another one, and it landed literally on the edge of the ravine in the high grass and bounced just straight left. So I kind of stayed on that long, they had knocked down all the weeds, so it wasn't like super tall weeds, but it was like beyond rough. It was probably ankle deep rough, maybe slightly higher. But it was, not just like next to the fairway first cut of rough type stuff, but landed kind of right there in that lip. And I was like, you know what, if there's a drop zone up there, I'll take a drop from up there. And so we drove up there wasn't a drop zone. So I was like, well, I thought there was a drop zone. It makes sense that it would be right around here because it was basically the beginning of the fairway. I was like, this is where a drop zone should be. So I took my drop and played 3 from there. And it was only maybe about 20 yards different from where I would have dropped if I dropped at the tree line. I guess you could make the argument that that second shot should have been my 3 playing off the tee. And then I had my approach and then a 2-putt. So if I played off the tee, then 4 would have been the approach, and then 5, 6. So I would have got a 6. But I got a 5 because of the way we kind of agreed to score it, which was the shot, the drop up there was 2. So then my approach was 3, and then 4 or 5 for the putt. If anybody has any difference on the ruling, if there's not a drop zone, how are you supposed to play that? But, I talked to the people I was playing with, and they said, yeah, there should be a drop circle up here, and there's not. So, and we all thought there was. So I don't know if maybe they, the grass had grown out and they cut it and hadn't spray painted the circle again. But it made sense that if there's a drop zone, it'd be up there. Because, again, it's a hole that is hard and needs a drop zone. So that's kind of how we played it. But, yeah, it was a super fun round. And the results were amazing. I actually ended up winning by 1 stroke. I was checking the leaderboard, and the first couple holes I kept taking a stroke from the course. So I'd go 1 under, and then I'd give 1 right back with a bogey. And then I'd go 1 under, and then I'd give 1 back. So I kind of was even, I think, through 4, maybe 1 under net. And then I gave one back on the 5th hole, the par 3. So I gave one back there because the net score was a bogey. So I gave only one back. But then after, I think, 6, I checked the leaderboard. Or maybe it was after 7. It was either after 6 or 7. I think it was after 7, because 7 was a par 3, and I parred it. And I checked the leaderboard, and I was like, oh man, I'm like only 1 shot back with 2 holes to go. And I knew that those next 2 holes, I was going to get a handicap stroke on. So I was like, if I can just par these 2 holes, that's a net 2, and the other guy had already finished. So I knew he was locked in at 2 under. So I was like, if I can just par these next 2 holes, that's the victory right there. And sure enough, I went par on 2 par 4s. One was a long par 4. But again, I made it amazing. So I was short coming into it. Had a decent chip shot, but not great. But then I made a really long putt, if I remember correctly. I could look back at my golf shot app and see. But and then the next par 4 was a shorter par 4, and I had a great drive. And then I think I had 130 left in. No, I had 150 left in, which I knew my 150 shot. No, I had 144, and I was like, man, I don't have a 144 shot. I was like, I got a 130 and I've got a 150. I don't have a 144. So I went with my 150 shot and just tried to aim a little bit higher. And there was a bunker short of the green. I landed literally right on the top edge of it. We saw sand kick up, and then it rolled through the green to the back fringe. And I had probably about a 15-footer, I would say, for birdie. And it was both me and my playing partner kind of looked at it, because he was like, we were kind of talking about have a chance to win it. And he's like, dude, that'd be awesome to see a fling golfer win this. And so he helped me with the read, and we both saw the same thing. It was kind of flat at first, and then there was a slight ridge, and we're like, all right, it's going to come a little bit right at the end. And it was the one bad putt I had all day where I pulled it, and I pulled it left. And because I pulled it left, between me and where that ridge started to pull it right, it actually was somewhat sloped to the left. But it was one of those things that's right on that line where if I go straight, it's not going to break because the speed will kind of keep it straight. But because I pulled it left, it did take it left. So then I had about a 3.5-footer, maybe 4-footer left in for my par to win it. And I was like, oh man, this is such a knee knocker. But luckily it was where it had ended up, I was like, all right, this is where it would have pulled it back right. So now it's a dead straight shot. But I was like, still, I literally just pulled one left. This is a dead straight putt. But if I pull this thing or push it, I'm going to miss it. And then I tie for first. I was like, so I got to drain this to win. And, I kept thinking back to that eagle putt I had a couple weeks ago with a 3.5-footer for my first ever eagle. And I was like, man, this is almost the same distance. This is actually slightly longer. I was like, don't shank this. But I had good confidence in that new putting stroke that I got and just drained it dead center of the cup. Won the tournament. I'm sure that's going to affect my handicap now going forward. So +6 last week, +3 this week. I'm sure my handicap next week, I'm guessing, is probably going to be about 4. A 4 handicap with the Spark Golf system, which would make sense off of this week, because that would have put me right at even par, because this week I had a 7 handicap is what the system gave me. So that's why I had the 3 under, because I shot a natural 40. So next week I'm anticipating probably about a 4, maybe even a 5. It depends on how it averages out. But honestly, if I can shoot a 40 every week from those tees, because those are some hard tees. At 3,100 yards is long for 9 holes for us. And it's just, I can't compete with them on raw score. Although actually the guy that I beat did shoot, he finished 2 under, but he had a 9-stroke handicap. So he shot a 43. because he would have been 7 over. Yeah, so he shot a 43. So I beat him by 3 natural. So I can kind of shoot right around what these guys are shooting, but, you know, I'm sure there's going to be somebody who's probably, you know, natural scores around par, and I can't compete with that on these distances. So, but I'm not far off. And I mean, honestly, I feel so good about the round too, because the parts of my game that were the weakest, which was like 60 to 120 yards, were some of my best parts this time. All that work I did yesterday in that last video, those numbers were spot on. Like I would look at the yardage and I just kind of remember the 3/4 one is 110 and I base it off of there. So those shots were just so perfect. And I made one mistake on it on the 130-yard shot. I had 130 left into a hole on the par 5 actually that I parred, which is part of why I parred it instead of getting a possible birdie. I had 130 left in, and I know that's I call it my belly shot. So it's kind of the Jacob Hooter, throw it all the way through but yank it into my oblique. And so I knew it was that shot. But I forgot to look up when I threw it, and I looked dead straight at it, and it just came out like a line drive and just took all the distance out of it. So I ended up short of the green. But then the par 3 7th was also that 130 shot, and I remembered, like, all right, I got to look up. And I kind of bailed out. The pin was tucked left behind a bunker, so I kind of bailed a little bit safe and just went dead center of the green. But it landed exactly where I wanted to, same distance, same line. I was hoping, you know, maybe it could have went a little bit left, but it kind of bailed out to the right, which, you know, that's smart golf. Miss to the center. Quit trying to, you know, that's a tough pin. Don't play for that pin because you could end up in trouble. Just play the smart center of the green. You know, I had to put it in for easy par. And yeah, absolutely loving it. Going back next week. It's a perfect time. It's about an hour and a half from my house, but it's right after I get off of work. If I run home and change, I can make it up there just in time to have about 15 minutes to warm up or so. I'm going to do another one tomorrow as well, north of Fort Worth at a place called Fossil Creek. I've never played there before. They did say there's a lot of water there, which could be dangerous, but my accuracy with this new stake
in 600 feet, keep right to stay on Crawley Plover Road. Keep right to stay on Crawley Plover Road.
This isn't even a keep right. This is like go straight through this lane.
Continue on Crawley Plover Road for 11 miles.
But anyway, so yeah, I'm going to play there tomorrow, and then I'm going to come back to this Mansfield one next week. I'm playing at Spark Golf, but I'm loving this Spark Golf thing where it's, you know, this quick 9 holes. It's a ton of fun. So if anybody out there has never tried Spark Golf, you know, Spark, like electricity spark, look it up, see if there's one in your area. They seem to be fairly located near like the bigger cities. So like for Texas, the only close ones to me, there's a whole bunch in Dallas, Fort Worth, but there's not really any on the southwest side of Fort Worth, which kind of sucks for me because that's where I live. So I have to go kind of into Fort Worth or past it to get to everything. And then there's another one down in Waco, but it's only one. I don't remember what day of the week it plays. I'd have to look it up again, but because I'm going to talk to Jacob and Todd and see if they want to start doing that. But I got to see when it plays, and it's a little bit far of a drive for me. It's 2 hours instead of an hour and a half, but which I mean isn't terrible. But by the time the course gets over, the round gets over, driving back home is also brutal. So you know, especially to be to work the next day. But it's a ton of fun. Had a great day today. Love the win. Some of the best golf I've ever played. You know, or fling golf, I guess you could say. Easily the best golf I've ever played. But playing some of the best fling golf I've ever played. I'm feeling a lot more confident because now I essentially have a shot. I have a solid 30-yard shot, which is my max distance flop shot clean sweep. Then my tomahawk from, I would say, 35 to 60 is all feel with a tomahawk, but I've got a pretty good feel for the tomahawk, and I can kind of visualize it and get that very close. And then from 60 all the way to 150, I've got 15 to 20 yard increments using that kind of clock stop method, where I stop it. So I've got good shots there. And then for like a 170, I think it was like a 175 shot, because I actually had one of those today, is a 3-step run up. And then my full 5-step run up gives me about 180 to 185 carry, then plus the rollout. I basically count that one as 200 yards, and it just kind of depends on the bounce on the rollout. So I've got shots all the way from 200 down to 60, with 15 to 10 or 15 to 20 yard gaps that I can just try to take a little bit off, or something like that on. And then a solid field tomahawk from 60 to 30. And then anything inside of 30, I feel mostly confident with my clean sweeps. I did have 2 bad clean sweeps today, where I just left them way short. One of them I left it short because I'd had a couple clean sweeps that had gone far on me. I landed them where I wanted to, but the rollout was way more than I expected, because the greens were just so fast and pure today. And they were hard, so they were bouncing more than I thought. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to land this one a little bit short. So I aimed short, but then I also chipped it short. And it was terrible. But it was that par 5 that I parred. So I had the bad belly shot into the short chip, but then I nailed, it was probably a 15 to 20 footer. I don't remember exactly which one. But nailed it right into a slight break right. It was an amazing putt. And all the guys were like going crazy. So, but yeah, super fun. I'm rambling just because I had a great day golfing. It was amazing. It was hot. It was like 108 degrees, something like that. We were all just dying and sweating. But I got my new hydro jug, and this thing is a lifesaver. 40 ounces of water. It held so much. It keeps it super cold. So I went through like 2 of those. Had to fill it up twice on the course. But yeah, it was brutally hot. But man, it played great. Feel great with the win. We'll see how I do next week. I'm kind of curious what people are going to think if they start finding out I'm a fling golfer, and they're like, oh, this guy's, possibly winning, or coming in top 3 or something like that with a fling stick. But I'm just gonna tell them, like, hey, you know what? The handicap system takes care of that. So yeah, my raw scores might be lower, but my handicap's gonna be lower too. So most of the guys that I see on there, like when you get the registration thing, they're at like 9, 13, 15 handicaps. So I'm one of the lowest handicaps already. Even just at 7 was one of the lowest ones. So if I got a 4 handicap going into that, that's probably going to be the lowest handicap out there. And I'll be like, hey, you know what? You can say this is cheating, but the handicap system is taking care of that. And I only gain strokes on, 4 of the holes, maybe 5 of the holes. And there's some holes you're getting 2 strokes on, so I don't want to hear it. I got to shoot 2 strokes better than you to make it the same exact score on some of these holes. So the handicap system works itself out. So, all right, I'm gonna stop rambling so I can focus on some driving. And yeah, I'll post this, like I said, a little vlog style. Try to add some more content to my channel. But yeah, shout out to the guys that I played with today. They were a great group of guys. One kid, the one that was my cart mate, he was playing as a solo. So we were both solos. They don't pair you up, but you pair you up in the carts. I think he shot a 1 over, so he played pretty well too. He had some drives, man. He had one at the same par 5 that I parred. He had a 370-yard drive, and that ball was one of the prettiest balls I've ever seen. His drive stays super, super low. Like, its apex is probably 50 feet off the ground. It's so low, but I think he's got so much backspin on it or something that, like, once it gets out there and it hits that apex, it just holds and just starts going. And it's like, how is this thing not falling out of the sky yet? But it was just dead straight. That one, I watched it from kind of a back left angle, and it just looked dead pretty. And then his drive on the last hole, it was a 320-yard par 4, and I thought he drove the green. But he ended up probably about 20 yards short of it, I would say. But that drive, I was literally standing dead behind his line, and that ball did not move left to right, literally an inch. It just went dead straight, low, and it hung up there. And the angle that I was watching it at, the way it kind of rose, for probably about a good 3 to 4 seconds, I would say. Maybe 3 seconds. It seemed longer, but it's probably in reality 3 seconds. That ball literally didn't move in the sky. It just sat there and just kind of got smaller and smaller as it got farther away. But it was kind of rising right directly in the line of my eyesight going up, and because it literally wasn't moving left to right, and it was still kind of rising and kind of holding. It literally did not move in the sky. It just sat there and just shrunk. It was just so pretty to watch. Man, if he'd been hitting like that all day, he had a couple bad shanks and stuff like that, and some slices, but his iron work was amazing. He had some great chips. He was putting really well too, but like his were just missing. He had a couple that missed by inches. I think he had one lip out as well. So he was close to, being a couple strokes under as well. He was a really cool guy. He talked a bunch, we talked fling golf a lot. He was very curious about it, and he actually tried it. And we found 4 balls just kind of laying around the range. And I said, all right, that's fine. Within 4 balls, I was like, I've watched you golf today. I was like, you're a younger guy. You clearly have some athleticism. I was like, within these 4 balls, I guarantee I can get you throwing it at least 160 dead center where you want it to go. And so I did my usual teaching method. I taught him the one-step baseball style throw. And I did the same thing I did yesterday with that other guy. And I said, all right, I'm not going to tell you the big mistake everybody makes. I want to see your first shot. I guarantee you're going to make a mistake. I expect it. Everybody does in the first one, but then I'm going to tell you what you did wrong. I'm going to correct it. And sure enough, he had line drive. I said, all right, you made the common mistake is you're looking at your target, and that's where it's going. So aim high, let it fly. And he launched it probably about 140, but I did notice it looked like he was trying to stop it, and he wasn't getting the full follow through. So I was like, all right, on this next one, I want you to do the same thing. Look up, but do a full follow through. Like hit yourself in the back shoulder, and he just like, bam. Instantly 160 directly where he was aiming. There was like a little star out there, and he almost hit it. And then the next throw was maybe about 5 yards to the right of that. But same thing, about 160. And I was like, look, 4 balls, you just learn how to throw fling stick. And so he's like, man, I need to pick one of these up. And I talked to him about doing hybrid golf, which I really want to get into. Playing 9 holes fling golf, 9 holes regular golf. But again, I want to buy that stick that Rick Shields had talked about. That's a 1 club adjustment, basically irons all the way from like a 1 iron hybrid all the way down to a sand wedge, and it can be turned flat for your putter. I want to buy that, and that way I'm only carrying two sticks, or 2 clubs, I guess. And I can do 9 holes fling, 9 holes traditional, and kind of do some hybrid. I mentioned to him about swinging flings. And I was like, I want to try to get some swing and flings going. He's like, dude, if you find a swing and fling, he's like, text me. He's like, I'll join you. He's like, I'll be your swing. And so he loved it. And the other guys were super interested in it. One of the other guys I was playing with is a social media manager. So he was like, dude, you need to like get on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff.
In half a mile,
I've got a channel.
Turn left onto US 377 South.
Okay, I can turn this off. I know where I'm at now. And so he's like, yeah, you got to get on social media and this stuff. All right, I'm not sure exactly where that cut off, but finishing up that story, I got to piece these together. Apparently when I maximized my navigation app to close it, it cut off my camera. But anyway, so yeah, the other guy I was playing with is a social media manager. And I sent him my YouTube and my flyer that I use for fling golf. And he sent me his YouTube channel, and he's a social media manager for something. I didn't exactly see what yet. I haven't checked it out, but I clicked on it. I just didn't kind of read into it yet. But yeah, he was talking about, getting on social media, and I told everybody, I was like, well, I got a YouTube channel. I just don't have a lot of content on there right now. And we started talking about it because they said I should get those meta glasses that like Jacob Hooter uses. And so I told him, I was like, well, there's a guy from Waco And I was like, he's the number 3 in the world, but he does those all the time. He does vlog style things with his Meta glasses. And they're like, dude, you need to get a pair. And he's like, because that would be, amazing seeing from the eyes of a flinger what it kind of looks like. And so I do want to get a pair. I got to look into how much they are and make sure I got the money for it right now. But I told him, I was like, well, I've just got a tripod, and that's kind of what I do now is I just set the tripod up and kind of watch that way, or film that way. But I was like, I've got an Instagram and I've got a YouTube. The problem is though, I don't have, my YouTube's going to fill up faster than my Instagram, because I want Instagram to kind of be the short form, like reels, a minute or less, and then my YouTube will be this longer form content. And I just don't necessarily always have the time to edit things down for Instagram. Plus, I'm not as familiar with Instagram and the uploads and kind of video editing features of that one. So I got to play around with that a little bit more and get more used to it. But they were like, yeah, dude, they're like, just send me your information. They're like, we'll find you. We're going to start following you. Because they're like, dude, this is amazing. They're like, we've loved watching you play today. And they were kind of amazed at some of the shots and how accurate it was and stuff like that. And I don't think I missed a fairway all day. I guess you could say on the par 3 I missed one, but everything else I think I was dead center fairway on almost every single drive. There was one that I thought I missed in the rough to the right, but it ended up being still in the fairway, but it was on the right side. Yeah, it was a really great driving day. Everything was just great. So anyway, I'm gonna end this here. And I'll probably do another one tomorrow after tomorrow's tournament. Be a little bit more interesting because, again, I got to guess my handicap. I'll probably base it off of these two. I'll probably call it a 5, I would say. I'll have to look at the yardages, though, as well. Because if the yardages are 25 to 2,800, I would say, I could probably, now that I'm more confident, I think I could probably shoot close to par. Because I should make... At that distance, I should probably make every green in regulation. And then as long as my putting's okay, I could probably shoot close to par. If it's longer distances, again, like this, though, I'll probably guess a 5. I think, honestly, it's more true to a 4, but 5 or 6 is probably going to... I would say 6 is probably actually going to be more accurate because it's a course I don't know. But I'll probably go in the middle to a 5 just to try to be a little bit more fair with it. But I'll probably do another vlog style video after that one. Kind of go over that one, see how I do, see how I finish, how the course was. A second day in a row with all my new, my new practice work and stuff like that. With the new approach distances, with the new putting style, which I am in love with. And just kind of see how it goes. Which... I know this is at the end, so Sam and Austin, I don't know if you guys are going to see this. I don't know how much you kind of stick to my, or how much you watch my content. I know you guys have watched some of it because you've commented on it. And you've commented on things later in the videos as well. So I know you at least kind of watch part of it. But I don't know if you kind of stick away all the way through, or even this one since it's a vlog style, if you're going to stick around to it. But if you do happen to see this, Sam and Austin, it's official. I am now switching 100% to that 51-inch Sabre. So I'm not saying the Encore is gone, because I do like the blue better. I've got my blue Fling Golf Texas hat. My favorite polo that I wear is the blue. Blue is more of my favorite color. So a 51-inch Encore might be in my future. I'm debating on, they just had the USA ones come out, the USA head covers. I think that would look pretty good. A blue Encore with a USA flag head design would look pretty good. But it's definitely 51-inch. I am 100% fully switched over to the 51. The accuracy on it is just a little bit better, and I like the miss better as well. With the 49-inch, my miss was to the left, but that was a problem for me because I do have a very slight fade in my shot sometimes. It's either dead straight or a very slight fade. So with my miss being left, I typically play, depending on, the nuance of the hole, anywhere from the center of the fairway to kind of like 3/4 left. If you take the left side of the fairway and split that in half, you can call it like, halfway between those. So I call it 3/4 left or whatever, a quarter from the left, however you want to kind of gauge it. But, and that would, with the encore, if it goes straight, great. It's going to be left, kind of left side of the fairway. If I get the fade, it's going to be dead center of the fairway. But then the problem is if I get that left miss, it's going left into the rough, possibly even the trees, which at Sugar Tree that I play in Lipan, there's a lot of holes like that where if you go left, you're either in the trees or behind them, and it causes a lot of problems. But with this 51-inch, my miss is now to the right. And it doesn't seem to have the fade on it. I only had one shot today that had any amount of fade on it. So it seems to be more straight. So I can play either center fairway or play that kind of 3/4 to the left. And then if I'm going to miss, it's not going to miss the fairway. Which, again, I had that one drive that I thought missed the fairway into the rough, but it still hung on and was, right edge of the fairway. It was probably about 5 feet, 3 to 5 feet still from the edge of the fairway. Which, again, fairway and rough doesn't really matter for us. But a lot of times you can have better approaches into the green, or you can stay out of tree trouble and things like that. Any bunkers that are in play, which none of the bunkers on these courses were in play for me except greenside bunkers, which I'm not scared of greenside bunkers anyway. But none of the fairway bunkers were in play because my yardage just doesn't reach them. But yeah, I like having that miss being a right side miss because it works better with where I aim, that it's going to stay in the fairway more. The only time it can kind of get me into trouble is if it's a tucked right pin and I have that right miss. But in those ones, I'll probably just play safe to the center, and then if I get that right miss, it's actually a good thing. So I like the miss better. The approaches and the chips, I don't notice a difference in. The drives, again, is I've got about 3.5, I think was the average, like 3.6 yards extra, which I think will probably eventually increase as I get more comfortable throwing it. But the putting is so much different. And granted, I could probably try with the 49-inch doing that side anchor tuck thing. It just wouldn't pin in my armpit like the 51-inch does, which I kind of like having a second anchor point, because it's anchored basically from my armpit all the way down my left arm, and that thing's not moving, which I think is part of the reason why the line is so much more familiar, or is so much more consistent hitting my line. Like I said, I only had one pulled putt all day today, and I did have two that came up short. I had one misread, maybe a second misread. I think I had two misreads. One was a bad misread, and the other one, the other one was actually on the par 3, the 200-yard par 3. I misread it. And even my playing partner, he even said, he's like, dude, I never would have saw that going that way. Because it went to the right, and we both thought it was dead straight. If anything, we thought it might go left at the end, but it just went right the entire way. Had another 3.5, 4-foot knee knocker. But, the putting is so much better. Like I had one shot that I left way short. It was actually on that second par 3. And I knew as soon as I hit it. I had the line too. Man, if I hit it, I left it about 4 to 5 feet short. No, it was less than that because they gave it to me. It was probably about 3.5. 3 to 3.5 because they gave me it. But yeah, it ended up short. But I guess if that's my bad miss is 3 to 3.5 feet short, that's not terrible because they always say lag putt within a 3-foot circle. Anyway, I'm rambling because today was such a great day and I'm stuck in traffic and I got nothing to do. except talk to YouTube. So, but anyway, yeah, I am fully switched over and engaged on that 51 inch. I'm loving it. I'm loving that new putting style, and I'm feeling confident. We got a tournament down in Waco for the Hooter Hearing Open on the 14th. So, was it the 14th? Yeah. Yes, it's the 14th. Because I've got my kids this weekend because it's a 5th. So then I get them the next weekend on the 7th, 8th, 9th. So yeah. So that's what? 2.5 weeks away. So I probably could get 5 more of these Spark Golf tournaments in before heading down there. So that'll give me a lot of practice and confidence on those approach shots, which I think is, if I can get that part of my game cleaned up. I was thinking about it today. I know I'm just still rambling, but again, I got a ways until I get home, and we're stopped for something. I don't even know what the heck's going on here. But traffic is dead stopped. But I was thinking about it today as I was kind of playing on probably about the 6th hole. The 5th was the par 3, so I think it was the 6th hole because that's the par 5. And I had that bad chip, and I remember thinking about it, and I was like, man, today this seems to be the weakest part of my game today, because I had a couple chips early that landed where I want them to, but I misjudged the rollout, so I had long putts coming back. And I had that one really short one because I overjudged the shortness, and then I missed it short. So I was like, if I can just get these scoop shots, like these chip shot, shots down, it's really the only weak part of my game right now. Like, my drive is not, I'm not the longest thrower out there, but I think from looking online, I think I'm above average. And from talking to Austin, it seems like I'm about on par with Austin. I think I'm a little bit behind him, like maybe about 5 to 10 yards shorter than Austin. But, if I'm still getting approximately 200 yards max drive rollout, and if I've got my approach shots relatively dialed in, and my putting is so much better now. I only had 15 putts. Was it 15? Yeah, 15 putts today, because you should have 18. So I was 3 putts under expected. I didn't have any 3 putts. So, if my putting's doing good, it really is coming down to that chipping and the scoop shots that I got to get down. And if I can get those down, there was probably 3 to 4 holes that the only reason I 2-putted them and got bogey on it was because my scoop shot was, not accurate enough. Because I was, 10 to, anywhere from 10 to 20 yards off the green, or away from the pin, probably. And not getting those within 1 putt distance was killing me. It was costing me shots all day. And so if I can get that dialed in to where if I'm within 30 yards of the green and I can get it to, at least 50% of the time 1-putting, that would be huge. And I think that alone would get me to shooting raw, about par, maybe just over raw scores, which then, if I improve that and get that even higher to, maybe 2/3 of the time, if I get a 60% 1-putt, and just basically if those times when I don't make green in regulation on a par 4 because I'm short, if I can then get up and down 2/3 of the time consistently, because if I can improve that chipping game with the way that I'm putting right now, which it's been 1 round, but it was consistent all day, so I'm going to say it just feels amazing. But if I can keep that putting consistency and then get that chipping down to get my up and down game better, I mean, I'm going to be threatening par, which I never thought I would say that in my life, going from traditional golf. I never thought par was ever a possibility. My goal with traditional golf was always just to have an 8 in front of the, at the front of the score. So my lifelong dream was to shoot an 89 or better, and I never did it. My lowest round ever was a 92. And, now I've shot a couple rounds in the 70s, and, I was like, well, I don't think I'll ever shoot even par. But, if I can get to high 70s consistently, and threaten breaking 75 every now and then, that'd be amazing. And, I mean, with the way things seem like they're going right now, I do feel confident that at some point I can break a par at some point. I'm not going to say it's consistently going to break par, but I think it's a good possibility that at some point in my life I'll actually break par, which would be an amazing life accomplishment. Because I never thought that would happen. Yeah, granted, completely different sport, but still, I mean, breaking par is not easy, no matter which version you're playing. So, all right, enough rambling. This is 17 minutes before I even got cut off. This is gonna be a long form video. I appreciate anybody that stuck around, listened to me rambling. I don't expect anybody to. This probably won't have any, a ton of views, but hey, this will be the 3rd video on my channel, so. You got to have some kind of content. So, all right, everybody. Happy flinging out there. I do want to start putting together some lesson series because I am learning a lot. And I noticed, here I go rambling again. Very quickly, I did notice when I got into my little rifle spinning exhibition drill stuff, one of the things that I had kind of an advantage or an edge up in the instructional space was I was kind of learning it right alongside the people that I was teaching. I was a step or two ahead of them, but I'd already had a teaching background from my time in the Army. I was an instructor, plus, I was a teacher. So I knew the teaching methods of how to instruct. But because I was learning the skills fairly freshly as well, I could very clearly remember the things that helped me learn the skill and the things I was doing wrong versus most of the tutorial videos on YouTube were people that were world-class level exhibition drillers who had forgotten more about drill than I currently knew at the time. And they certainly had forgotten a lot of the stuff about those beginner level tricks. Because there was a lot of times when they were, teaching, they were just like, all right, you kind of start here and position here, and then you just do it. And it was just kind of like, okay, grab the ball and yeet it. So, I mean, picture a fling golf instructor saying, okay, I want you to put the ball in the channel. I want you to set up with the head or the channel low, your hands high over your shoulder, and now just throw it. If you never give any sort of comparison or okay, well, how do I throw it? Where do I aim? Where do I release? Follow throughs, all that stuff. And if you never talk about that, you can't just say, okay, here's your setup and now go. You got to be able to talk through the nuance. But a lot of these guys, when they first started, they didn't have that teaching acumen. So they could do the skills, but they didn't know how to translate it to new people. So I had that same thing. Now, I haven't seen enough of the videos on YouTube for instructional stuff because, I mean, there's not a whole lot out there that I've been able to find. Tim Durr has a really good series on his golf theory that have really good instructionals. But even that, I've noticed that there's some gaps just from a teaching background. Nothing against Tim Durr. He's an amazing player, and he does a good job of I learned a lot from him. But it took me watching those videos and then going out and trying to experiment and apply it to kind of really pick up on it. So I think with my teaching background and kind of what I'm learning, I could apply that into an instructional series that'll talk about body mechanics and all that stuff of here are some drills to do to really kind of narrow things down and focus on these things and these body positions and all that stuff. And I've seen the proof in it when I've taught people, just out on my ranges and my rounds like that, being able to get people to throw consistently within 4 shots, 5 shots, sometimes even on their first shot. So I kind of want to put that into a video format, so there's somewhere, you know, permanent, be able to look it up permanently on YouTube for people to find that. Now the only drawback is I don't have the name recognition. I'm not a top player or anything like that. I obviously am not nearly as good as these other guys who do have some sort of content, you know, talking about it. Like I've mentioned before, that the Jacob Hooter had that one where he talked about his thought process approaching approach shots. But, you know, again, nothing wrong with Hooter. There's parts of that I only would have understood it because I have a slight background. So what I want to do is make an instructional series that is geared towards literally the beginner, never touched a fling stick in their life type person, where it's like, all right, let's start you from scratch. This is how I would teach you if I was there in person, and be able to do that on YouTube and translate it. And, you know, kind of just go from there and put that on YouTube. So I'd love to be able to do something like that to get more content on my channel. And kind of, I think that's a space and a niche that I can uniquely kind of go into with the backgrounds that I have and kind of where I'm at in my fling golf journey, where I am getting better to where I feel like I can be somewhat competitive and kind of not embarrass myself out there in the course, and maybe kind of challenge for, I don't think I'm ever going to challenge for like a top spot or a win on tour. But I think I'm at a point, I was looking at the scores from, like, you know, Keystone Classic this weekend. I think I'm at a point where I can challenge top 20. Maybe not consistently be there, but I think I can at least challenge sometimes finishing in that top 20. So, you know, it's not the best in the world. It's not ever, you know, great, but it's good enough that I have somewhat of a foundation that I know what I'm talking about, plus with that ability to teach people in a way that makes sense for absolute beginners. Like, I'm never really going to be able to teach anything to, you know, an Austin or a Sam or a Kenzo or a Jacob or Todd or Tim or anybody. Like, I can't teach those guys. They already know more than I know, and they've refined it to the point where I don't have any educational things to offer them. It would just be preaching to the choir, telling them things they already know, or even things that they've already mastered beyond what I know. But I think I can teach that beginner fling golfer who's only played a round or two, or maybe not even played, they've only kind of experimented on the range, how to dial things in and get your certain distances and be able to get a little bit more consistency and aim and stuff like that. So I think that's a unique niche that I can fill and kind of carve out a role within the fling golf world, because I love this community, I love this sport. It's kind of become my new passion and calling in life. So yeah, it's great. All right, traffic's cleared up. I'm actually going to shut up now. One problem with being a teacher is teachers like to talk. And when I get bored on the road, I talk even more. So happy flinging out there, everybody. Thanks again for anybody that stuck around. And I'm going to watch some Garrett Clark versus Getty Good Golf on YouTube. Later, everybody.